President Trump made an appearance at the Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards UFC fight on Saturday, flanked by Dana White and Kid Rock, and the crowd could not have been happier. Let's take a look.
And who is in the building but former President Donald Trump, escorted by UFC President and CEO Dana White. And they are all rising inside T-Mobile Arena to pay their respects to the former leader of these United States of America. Donald Trump is a massive UFC fan. He's watching our fight nights at home, but he has been omnipresent at our live events this year, and he is out to support the former interim champion Colby Covington tonight against Leon Edwards in our UFC Welterweight Championship main event. All right, next on ESPN2, men's college hoops, NC State and Tennessee. But our prelim coverage ends here from Vegas. You know what time it is, though. The best is still to come.
Also present at the fight was UFC commentator and podcaster extraordinaire Joe Rogan. Trump and Rogan exchanged a handshake before returning to their seats. Watch.
Rogan has previously expressed trepidation at hosting the former president on his podcast, but in recent months has been more gung-ho about his perception that life was better under Trump than under Biden. Here's Rogan last October saying this on his show.
He was in all the rap songs. Rappers would always talk about Trump. Everybody loved Trump. He was like this wheelin', dealin' billionaire character that everybody enjoyed.
Yeah. I felt like he did a decent job.
As president, when you look at his regulations, it certainly helped the economy.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
that guy who was
I
the
feel
head
like
of,
we were in a lot better spot then than now, for sure.
without a doubt.
Yeah, I've noticed this with Joe Rogan's commentary that it's gotten even more anti-Biden. It wasn't particularly pro-Biden to begin with. It's gotten even more anti-Biden and maybe more positively disposed toward Trump. Joe Rogan, he said on his show that he declined to have Trump on because he doesn't want to be perceived as doing anything to contribute to him winning. I think that was in the run-up to 2020. Which you could pick that apart a couple different ways because, you can have someone on your show and interview them in a critical way and have them not come off well. It's his show. He can interview whatever he wants, obviously, but I didn't quite get the thinking there. So, people are talking about they interacted there at the UFC fight. Is there more of a warmth, and does that mean he might one day be on Joe Rogan after all?
Yeah, I suppose it's possible. I also was kind of confused by that sentiment towards interviewing the former president. I mean, even if you just space it out a little bit away from the election, then I don't see what the potential problem would be, especially if you also invite President Biden or anybody else from the left side or Democrat side who might want to come on the program. He's certainly had people on before who are more on that side of the aisle. I don't think it would be totally not with keeping with the tenor of the show. And I, for one, would love a Joe Rogan Trump interview, just even separate from a policy discussion. I would love for them to just kind of talk about like Trump's history in New York and in the real estate business, maybe some of his like favorite golf stories. There's so much about Trump's life that is really fascinating. He got into some of it with Tucker Carlson during their sit-down interview. And I always, just from a podcast perspective, enjoy listening to those kind of conversations more than like the overtly political ones anyway, because we're so inundated with political discussion around Trump all the time. But I have to say, this UFC environment is fascinating. I've never been a UFC fan, which I'm sure is not to the surprise of any of our viewers. But I feel like I have to go to at least one of these matches just to feel the energy, because it really seems like a really special atmosphere in terms of the excitement of people who are there, the types of people who attend them, and then, of course, the reaction to Trump just is always so like over the top excited. And you don't get to see him really interact in those types of environments very frequently. He sometimes attends football games, but it's kind of a different
the crowd
situation.
Going wild, tons of political support for him. He used to attend. I remember when he used to attend wrestling matches as well. That's the famous clip of him. He was even involved in one of the matches, right? Taking down, of course, wrestling, not real, UFC fighting, very real.
Next you're going to tell me Santa's not real.
Santa's not real? What?
I just ruined Robbie's Christmas.
Jeez, that's okay. Christmas is canceled this year. Anyway, so we don't often get to share the table like this. So where are your thoughts for where Trump stands, right now in terms of the nomination? I mean, he's clearly going to win the Republican nomination if it comes down to voting. There is, of course, this weird chance that given the reality of his legal situation, he, at the last minute, is like literally being taken to jail and decides not to run, in which case like the Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley strategy of staying in it actually isn't that crazy, given there's this weird outside chance of that happening. What do you think about Republican voters? So it seems like they were not ready to move on, clearly. Some of them think we could have a more likely winner other than Trump if we had a general election nominee. But of course, the polls bear out right now Trump performing just as well against Biden as Ron DeSantis does, maybe even a little bit better. And then Nikki Haley doing even better than that. But still, things not looking good for Biden. And so if you love Trump and the polls show that he is certainly capable of beating Biden, why would you jump ship?
Right. I think the electability argument has been proven repeatedly to be pretty bogus when it comes to Trump. I mean, maybe they had a point a year and a half ago, but at this point, with polls consistently showing Trump trouncing Biden, particularly in swing states where realistically the presidential election
will be decided.
is decided, makes it pretty obvious that argument doesn't hold water. And then I would also say on the legal challenges, as these indictments piled up between the last 6 months or so, his support has increased.
Yes.
So in Iowa, right, in the Des Moines Register poll, in October, he was at something like 45%. Now he's closer to 60%, even as these legal challenges have become more pertinent, more immediate. He's appeared in court several times in the alleged fraud case out of New York. There's also been developments in the January 6th case as well, where it seems like that one is maybe not going to continue the way that the left thought it would. And so I think simultaneously you have a Trump base that views these indictments as overtly political and doesn't really foresee them leading to Trump facing any real legal consequences, maybe at most a fine. But at the same time, if Trump were to end up actually getting convicted of one of these more serious charges and would run from jail, like his base would love it. And
no, it's totally like, stop, I was already supporting him, you don't have to sell me kind of thing.
Like when he released the mugshot t-shirts.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't foresee like that being a reason why the people who are already supporting him would leave.
No. And I wasn't saying that.
Yeah.
The legal stuff makes him more popular. I totally agree with you. But I think in Georgia in particular, he's facing some serious, without endorsing it, I'm not saying I agree that these things should have been brought, but that he is, given that so many other people were charged and they're flipping on him, they're providing incriminating testimony against him, and in so many other RICO type cases, that results in it's a really bad situation to find yourself in. So I wonder if Republican primary voters, it might make them like him even more, but is it going to, he'll literally be running from jail. We're going to find out to the extent to which that's possible.
I just feel like at that point, it becomes more of a vote for retribution, perhaps, or a protest vote than it is a vote of this guy can seriously get elected.
I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Can't argue with that.
More Rising right after this.